This episode of this Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey is brought to you by energy healer Jean Border's personal, powerful transformation program. Know you're leaving money on the table, but can't figure out how to bring it in? Need to double your productivity and profitability? Need an extra push to get things moving in the right direction? Visit www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com/transformation now and apply for a business consultation with Jean. Welcome to the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey, where we take out your emotional baggage and heal your emotional body so you get to enjoy the success you desire and deserve. Prepare to feel a sense of relief and empowerment as we get rid of the baggage you've been carrying that's held up your business success up until now. Be sure to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, lean in, get comfortable, and prepare to take off.
Hello, everyone. This is Jean Border, your host for the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast. I have a special guest with me here today, like always. This one's really cool. We're going to talk about magnetism. This is Jessica Osborne, and she's with us all the way from the other side of the planet in Australia. Hello, Jessica. How are you?
Hello, Jean. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you're here. We were talking before we started recording, and I was in her country just half a year ago. It's such a cool place to be. So many things to see. I was there for a month and didn't get to see everything. So maybe I'll get back there. It's just the flight is so long. Much easier walking this way.
That's why you have to come for a decent amount of time and have a good holiday. There's so many places to go and explore.
And they're so cool. The people are so friendly. I mean, the views are magnificent. I just loved it. Anyway, today we're talking about magnetism. So Jessica, talk to me a little bit about where you started your business from and where you are today and how magnetism plays a role in that.
That's a big question. So I started my business back in 2017. This is actually my second business, I should say, because I always forget the first one. The first one I started in 2010. Feels like an absolute age ago. But I always had that sort of dream of getting out of the corporate life and having my own business. I was head of marketing and communications for a listed firm, so I had a really great career and I'd been working in marketing since 1998. So now I'm really showing my age. But I think I always had that drive to do my own thing. And, really, as we all do, the freedom, the flexibility that comes with being able to be your own boss and choose how you want to work. So that was sort of the beginning of this business. In 2017, I had my second child. I was actually in hospital after giving birth. And that's when I went, right, I'm doing it right now, because if I don't, then I'll have another baby and I'll go back to work. And when will I ever start a business? So I thought, got a bit of time at home with the baby and my toddler. And for some reason, I thought I'd try to be super mom and do everything at the same time. So that's where it began. And, obviously leveraging my experience, I decided I would coach other females, other moms in particular, who were starting a business or, had been in business a while, but were finding it hard to find the right clients, they were struggling to really make that business dream work for them. I think so many people feel like it can be so easy and you see so many success stories. But then when you start out, it can be just so difficult to think, well, how do I even attract clients? How do I get in front of them? And so many people give up on that dream. And I really felt like, well, I want to help. I'm doing this and I get it. And I want to help people who have less experience than me or who are just struggling to see from the outside. I think, that's the other challenge. I interestingly work with so many marketers, but it's so hard to look at your own business, isn't it? When you're on the inside looking out, it's so much easier when you have somebody on the outside looking in to say, well, hey, here's the easy way. Here's some obvious things that we can do to make it easier and really help you stand out and attract the right clients. So that's where really this magnetism comes in, because the thing that I found is that as a marketer, like I have done everything in terms of marketing activities over my career. But when I reflected back, especially starting this business, I thought it's not about any one particular thing. It's actually about the piece behind it, the invisible stuff in the strategy that I've seen that some companies that I worked for, we created incredible, insane growth really quickly. Like I took a startup IT firm from zero to $1 billion company in less than 5 years. It was amazing. And the one difference was attracting the right clients. The sales team would come and say, hey, we have the easiest job ever, because by the time we're talking to someone, they already know who we are, what we do, and they already want to work with us. So it's literally like a transaction. And I was like, yes, exactly. That's what we're doing in marketing. Maybe they hadn't worked anywhere like that before, but it was about creating that really strong presence of this is who we are, what we do, and who we do it for, and not trying to be someone for everyone, not trying to kind of be open to everything and bring it all in. And this is exactly the same place I find most new entrepreneurs get stuck, because they're like, I just need clients. I need any clients. I'm not too fussy. I just want to have money coming in the door. And yes, 100%, we all do that. We all get it, right? The thing that's counterintuitive is that in order to do that faster and easier and better, it's actually about getting specific and not being someone for everybody, but getting really clear on who you are for. And that creates a magnetic pull, because suddenly there's well, if we talk in terms of the universe and the energy, I think you're out there, you're actually able to connect and attract those people because you've been specific about who it is. If you're not specific, imagine that you're out there and you're just floating around thinking, where are these clients? Walk down any main street, any shopping mall and think, well, it's like you're there, standing there on the street with all these people around you shopping. No one's paying any attention to you. It's exactly the same thing that's happening in your business. And until you decide to stand on your soapbox and say, this is what I do, this is who I help. And suddenly people are like, oh, I can hear you. Oh, I can see you. And so we're doing that same thing in the strategy. But I'm using that analogy. It doesn't mean that you have to stand on a soapbox and be shouty. It just means that you've got to get specific.
And that is so true. It is so hard. Let me rephrase. It can be so hard for people just starting in business because they know they can help. I'll use the energy field since you brought that up. They know they can help anybody, You change the mindset, you change the beliefs, you change everything, right?
Yeah.
But if you say, oh, yes, I can help you. Well, how can you help me? Well, everybody's different. So now I'm going to have a different story for everybody I talk to, right? And so
exactly.
Talking to everybody is very different than talking to one person. One type of person, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that is so hard sometimes to rein ourselves in and talk to a specific person. So they think, oh, that person is speaking directly to me, not to everyone.
Yes.
They're speaking directly to me. They know my problems. They know my desires. Maybe they do know how to help me.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, there's so many, examples of this, because you just think you have people, you think, well, I can help somebody with marketing. You might think, well, that's specific because it's not legal, it's not accounting. And, I had the same challenge. I'd worked in so many businesses, 20 years in corporate I had. So you think there's so many different types of people that you could help. And I can help them with anything. I could help an online business with their online shopping, so many different things. But it was like, right, I've actually got to decide where my sweet spot is. So it's not about who I can help and who I can't help. It's like, who can I help best, right? Who's going to get the absolute highest value from me, where I can deliver to them incredible results, not just results. And that takes looking in. And what I see often happens is people are looking out to try to figure out what that is. They're like, well, I'm looking at the market. I'm trying to assess who else is out there and what everyone's doing so that I can go out there and do something different. And so they're kind of trying to make decisions based on where they logically think they should be. But I call this the difference between the external and the internal. The beautiful thing is that when we ignore the external and actually look within, you can find these answers really quickly. You can delve down, you can find your highest value, find that place that you're going to be able to really shine and go out there and do it, regardless of what other people are doing, because it actually doesn't matter what they're doing. Where you have your highest value is where you will shine the brightest. That is where your strength, your power, your magnetism, your energy comes from. And the sooner you dial into that, the easier and better it is. And so that's really like the first step to it is getting that clarity and getting clear. I mentioned before, when I started, I made all sorts of mistakes. Even though I knew a lot of this, I still got, what's the word, diverted, shiny object syndrome. Oh, somebody would come to me and say, can you help me with my business? And they might not have been exactly who was the right fit. But of course, being new, I thought, sure, I can help you because you've asked me to. Online shops, I'd had an online shop with my first business. So I sort of was dabbling here and there. And you asked me, what changed for me? It was when I decided that it was okay to say no to some people, and to get even more clear and specific to actually say, right, I'm going to coach people on their strategy of how they're going to connect the core pieces of their marketing strategy so that they attract clients consistently, so that they are clear on who they are being to the market. They've got something that those people want and they've got a system to bring them in. That's my zone. And I only work with service provider businesses and, coaches, or they might offer marketing services. So there's a very defined space. As soon as I did that, everything shifted and changed almost immediately to a new level where I was attracting in exactly those people who fit the profile, and they were getting amazing results. And so it was so interesting because it's scary and hard to do that at times. And you think, but I'm leaving people out, I'm leaving money on the table. There's all of the fear and the panic. What will happen if I just say this and I'm not talking to these other people anymore? But I found that actually it just helped me attract more of those ones who I'd identified as being the best fit for me. And so it actually was the best thing in the world for my business. And, this story is almost, I could pick it up and say the same things happen for my clients. I can be very tough with them. I'm like, we need to get specific. And we get specific. As soon as they do, it's incredible. They're like, I've just booked 3 VIP days this week. People have just appeared and they've come to me. I'm like, I know, that's what happens when you do this work. That is what happens. And it's interesting, just how much a difference it does make. And I think this is something you can't understand it until you really experience it, but you have to kind of trust in the process that it works, because it works over and over and over again. And you just see the evidence and the success stories that are amazing.
And it sounds so easy when you say it, but when someone is just starting out and they don't have a lot of cash flowing in, but they have a lot of expenses going out to grow their business, it can be so difficult mentally to think, no, I'm going to ignore this whole part of the population when I can be getting so much money from all of these, and I'm going to focus on this little pool right here when I could be getting so much money from all of these. That can be difficult internally.
Yeah, but let's talk to that money side for a moment, because here's the other thing that is not always thought of, but when you do dial in that specialty, and that's, I'm talking about your expertise here. So people can call it many things. Sometimes it's your niche, sometimes it's your specialization. It is being specific in your expertise is what I'm talking about. So that to me is not just who, it's also what. It's being really clear on what you do, who you do it for, and even your way of doing it. But when you do get clear on it, what happens is you become a specialist. And who do you think earns more or charges more for their work? Someone who's a generalist or someone who's a specialist? And you only need to look in your existing life who the people are that you go to for any kind of service, whether it's medical services, whether it's educational. Doesn't matter what type of service, right? We all have the health ones come to mind because it's so easy to compare. You've got your general dentist and then you've got your specialists and you've got the surgeons, keep on going up that specialty layer and you'll find the ones who are the most specialized, they're the ones who are earning the most. So it is really, again, our lizard's brain is trying to keep us safe by saying, need to stay open. We need to, because that's how you'll be able to earn more money, because we've grown up with this idea that the more things that we do, and I think this is, I'm now explaining a little bit before I dive into that, but I think that we've been trained to through our education and how we were brought up and through work, the more skilled you are as an employee, often the more valuable you are, right? So people start out in jobs and then you start building skills and training in more different things and becoming, adding stuff to your CV, which in that realm has always been perceived as, well, you're becoming a more valuable employee because you've got more skills, you've learned more things. But when we take that into business and we're trying to show this amazing CV of all these different skills that you have or programs that you use and all of that stuff, it's bamboozling to your clients. They're like, well, I don't know really, I don't need all of that stuff. They're looking for something specific. They're then having to search through your haystack of, skills and expertise to find the thing that's relevant for them. And I'm thinking, is that really what they're good at? Or is it just something they've stuck down because it's something they can do? And as somebody who is hiring a person to help them, you don't want the person who just can do it or have done it before and therefore pay me to do it for you. You really want someone who knows what they're doing, who's got the skills and expertise. So it's almost detrimental to be listing all the things that you can do. I can make cookies. Should I put that down? Like, hey, I can share a recipe with you if you like. But, and I'm making that sound ridiculous, but it is actually what a lot of people are doing in business. They're thinking the more things that I have to offer, the more chance I have of being hired. And that's unfortunately, really counterintuitive. Is not the way that the market works. We are wanting to hire people who are really good at what they do, because unless you're bringing in someone to be an intern, and I'm not sure that you started your business to be an intern, but unless you're bringing in someone to be an intern and you want to train them up, you're hiring someone who has the expertise, because they're hiring you because it's faster and easier for them to hire you than it is for them to do it themselves. So they don't want you to be training on the job unless they've specifically said, I want someone without it, and we're going to train and do this together. So just to add that little caveat in there, but otherwise you will actually have more propensity to earn higher income when you specialize. And that's kind of the other part of, for me, I don't think I really mentioned before, it's not just about attracting clients and having a business. For me, because as I said, I started mine when I had my second child. For me, business is so much about the freedom that you have in your life. And my freedom looks like working no more than 20 hours a week. Absolutely, that would be the maximum. I wanted to work only within sort of school hours, be able to have loads of time to take my kids to sports, to enjoy this time in our life that you never get back again, And that's the same as so many other women who are mothers or mothers to be, who want that flexibility. So why would we create a business where you've got to work 60 hours a week to earn a decent amount of money? We actually want to be earning that money in far less hours than what you would have currently been doing. And the best way to do that is by, really dialing in your strategy so that you have this expertise, so that your offering is aligned to it, and so that your marketing system is also aligned to that, so that you can bring the right people in. And, the magnetism really happens when we're connecting those pieces together. We have alignment happening, because it's not just about being specific. We've also got to be doing something to help bring them in, right? But the beautiful thing about it, the earning piece, is that you can actually have a high income business, six figures, multiple six figures in part-time hours when you are brave enough to take on this piece and actually, really get specific and clear on what you're doing in the market.
So let's move into different levels of offering.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Talk to me about that, because it's not just high income. People have to get used to you, right? So maybe you have very low offers that people can take advantage of to get to know you, to begin to like and feel that they are in alignment with the way you think, the way you talk, the way you present, the offers that you have on the table.
Yes, I love that you've asked this question, because it is like, if you imagine that you have a service model where all roads are leading to Rome. So you have a goal in mind that is sort of your primary offering. And if you are an expert actually is defined as someone who has skills or knowledge. So it's not that you are the expert in the world. It's not that you have 1 million degrees in whatever it is in qualifications. It's actually defined as having knowledge, skills, experience in a certain area. So if you have expertise, you're almost doing yourself a disservice to be undervaluing it, let's say. So it's not that I'm saying you should only have high ticket services, but you would have them priced appropriately for what it is that you are offering. So one-to-one services, where most of my clients primarily are in the one-to-one space, and then they might have some digital products or some group programs that we add in. But what I get them to focus on is aligning their offerings together so that there's a flow and there's a model where people are coming in at a certain point, but there's a goal in mind. So your primary offering is potentially one where this is the core piece of your business. This is where all the roads are leading to. And yes, like you said, you can have a lower priced item as a lovely little stepping point, an entry point in where somebody can come in and experience a bit of what it's like, and then you're moving them towards your other offering. Now, it might sound, well, that makes a lot of sense and really logical, but what I find is that it's not always how people are intuitively building their business, and especially in the services space. They often are having many different offerings, but they're all separate. And what that means is that there's duplicate systems, processes, all of the back-end admin in order to run these separate offerings. And they're thinking about it as more different offerings mean more different ways for people to come in. But when we bring this together into sort of a streamlined model, yes, people can enter at different levels of your model based on where they're at. So somebody might be like, well, I'm ready to come straight in at your primary offering. Other people might be, I just want to take a smaller step in, because they might not be ready for that yet. So that's more about their readiness as opposed to you just having lots of different options, if you know what I mean. So bringing that together, that is, again, for me, you've got multiple offerings and income streams, but they're all flowing together and actually increases your revenue and profit, because you don't need as many new people when you're bringing them into a model where there's flow between the offerings. They either come in from the bottom, sometimes they come in from the top, and they end up in the middle. There is a journey with them once they're in your business, and that reduces actually the amount of time you need to spend marketing. So here I am, a person who does marketing, and obviously that's what I coach people. And then I'm always telling them, you can do less marketing if you get this stuff sorted. It's actually about doing a little bit of work in the background, in that strategic piece, understanding how your services will fit together. What are we actually promoting? What is the thing that we're drawing people in with? And then what are the stuff that you have, some things behind the scenes that maybe people don't know about on the front end, but once they're in, then you have other offerings for it. There's so many really great ways that you can create, easy revenue and profit. I think when you're looking at that, how it's all fitting together, and definitely from that, your ideal customer's point of view. So who are they? Where are they coming in? What are they ready for? How can you get them ready for your main offering?
All of this is very interesting to me, because I am not a marketer. I built my entire business from, well, I'm going to say 95% from referrals. This person told that person, told that person, told, and my business grew that way, just organically. And now when people talk about, their email list, that's not something I'd ever focused on. I am beginning that process because I see the value in it in certain things. But for me, my marketing strategy, if you will, part of the beginnings of it is this podcast. People can get to know me, right?
Yes.
How I think, what I believe, how I work, how I interact with people. So for me, I really enjoy the podcast space.
Yes.
The marketing.
And this is, exactly. It's really great. And I have a podcast as well. And when I look at I don't know if everybody can see us, but I have my hands in the triangle. So I like to think of my business in a triangle shape, because at the bottom you have obviously the widest, it has the most people in it, and also either low cost or free. And so the podcast is right down the bottom. This is a free platform that you're offering value on. And as you go up the triangle, you're going less people, but higher pricing. So when you get to the top, the pinnacle, that is obviously your most premium offering, which you would usually be doing for the smallest amount of people, because it's, being premium is probably going to be the most highly intensive of your time. So that's kind of how I simplify that down. And a podcast is a fantastic mechanism to have as your free content. Other people choose things like a Facebook group or something like that they run, which is a way for people to come in and experience a bit of them. I think it's all about finding what are the right fit for you. And that's the other piece is, when we get into, so I mentioned there's sort of parts of your strategy that you want aligned, and your traffic, aka your marketing system, is a component that needs alignment with your offerings, because we want to be using the right sort of activities that are going to bring in the right people for our offers, and alignment to who it is that we're obviously trying to attract. But then there's alignment within the activities as well. So you think, all right, I've got this podcast. Well, how does that connect for them with the next piece? Where do they go from here? So you might have something that you offer to them on the podcast that is on value that they might subscribe for. And so we move them one step into the email list. And then from the email list, then there's another step to whatever your next step is for them, whether it's to have a call or to, maybe there's a low priced program or course or something like that you might offer as a next step. So it's just about connecting the dots for people. And I love that, you've mentioned referral, because service-based businesses, a lot of people start their business with referrals and build a really successful business with referrals. And I often talk to this in a lot of my trainings. I have a training that I was going to share with your audience that's on my website called The 5 Keys to Clients on Tap. And I talk about in there the different ways that we can attract clients. There's find, there's attract, and there's receive. And so referrals are in what I call the receive category, where they're coming in from other people. You're really not doing a lot of, you're not going out to find them, and you're not actually doing activity to attract them either. You're kind of quite passive in terms of that energy. They're coming in, and they're fantastic. When you can, they can be challenging as well as being absolutely golden. And I wanted to talk to that a little bit, because while they are fantastic, the best way to have really great referrals is still to do this strategic work so that you're really clear on what it is that you do and who you do it for, so that people who are out there thinking, I might refer someone to Jean, they know exactly who's the right person to refer to you. Because the challenge with referrals, when it's just open, and usually this is when people start out and they get so frustrated, is they're getting referrals that probably are quite random. Someone needs some help with marketing. I know someone who does marketing. Go and talk to Jess. And so you get people coming in with all sorts of crazy requests. And what generally happens is those people think, I need to, create an offer for them, or a price for them, and a proposal, and take on all these different clients. And so people who get their business mainly driven by referrals and haven't created their own structure or strategy in who it is that they're for, can find themselves sort of odd jobbing, over here doing one thing, over here doing another thing. And that creates actually a lot of unpaid admin time. So what we'd call unbillable time in the back end, because there's so much customization going on. So while it's great that you're getting clients without really having to do any work, there's often a limit where you can get to with your business. And to move beyond that, it's actually about getting sitting down and going, right, let's actually create a bit of a marketing strategy about who it is, who you are, what you do in the market, what is your messaging. Even if you're still going to get referrals in, you're going to now get better referrals of a better quality. And you'll also be able to sort of say no to some of the ones that aren't the best quality, which, by the way, opens up the space for the ones who are the good fit to come in. So that's where we want to move to. But by doing that, you'll organically start to attract your own clients in. And this is really where I talk to people who have a high referral base for their business at the moment is right now, your client attraction is in the hands of other people. So if you're relying on referrals and you don't have your own flow of clients in that you can kind of turn on or off or do something with yourself, then you're very reliant on something external that you have no control over, which is fine when it's working. And when it's not, that's where we get the whole feast and famine. People talk about the feast and famine of referrals. Suddenly 1 month there's 5 and then the next month there's none. And, you don't know when they're coming. You don't know when they're not coming. So it can be like that. So I think when, you can move into a place where you're able to have a nice flow, or you've got a list of people waiting for your services, and that can work well once you're at that point. But I always think have that, but make it like the cherry on top. I'm getting these referrals in from other people, but I've also got my own lead attraction piece that's happening, so that I'm attracting my own clients in, and then I'm getting the referrals from people as well. And I think the two of them together, beautiful, because you've got some that you're doing a little bit of marketing to attract, and you've got some that you're not really doing anything and other people are referring to you, which is amazing. The bit that I mentioned just really briefly and I haven't spoken about is the find. And this is where I try to move people away from. So where they are actually actively going out to find clients, meaning scrolling Facebook groups, searching for leads, DMing people, cold DMing, cold emailing, any sort of outbound outreach where you are literally hunting clients down to get them. That is like, it works. So I'm not going to say never do it. And hey, if you need to, fine. But this is not a business strategy that's sustainable. If you want a business that is flexible, that has, if you love the idea of working part-time and having, six-figure, multi-six-figure income, then doing that repetitive activity that is non-leveraged is actually taking so much of your time. Because think about it, each person that you research and reach out to, if they don't respond or they say no, that time is gone. It's not then leveraged for the next person. You have to do that activity over and over and over again. And right, the stats that I've seen are that this has a conversion rate of 1% on average, which means that you'd have to contact 99 people to get one yes. So it's probably 99 people to get one response even back. And this is not just a stat that's on the internet. I've asked people who contact me, they've sent me an email or a DM, and I've often gone back and forth. I really want to help this person and say, this isn't the best way to get clients. How often do people respond to you? And they're like, oh, usually 1 in 50 or 1 in 100. And I'm like, exactly. So what are you doing? Like, does that not show you that there's a better way? And just by putting that same energy into creating something that can attract people to you, you spend that same 1 hour creating something that exists, like this podcast episode. And it exists. And the more of those you create, it's like you're building this beautiful spider's web. Each thread, each little bit you create is building a bigger and bigger and bigger web, and you can attract more and more and more people in. So that time is leveraged because we create this podcast episode once. It can be heard by one person or 1,000 people or 100,000 people, and it's the same amount of energy and effort that we've put in. This is where we're talking leveraged time, and this is where it's smarter activity to be doing than something totally non-leveraged, which is your outreach. So while, I love to kind of talk to that. I don't want to criticize anyone for doing it, because I know there may be times that I just need to have someone, and that's absolutely fine. It's just not an ongoing business strategy that's super sustainable. So, I always say caution with that. And is there something that we could do that would actually bring in more people for that same amount of time that you're spending?
I was just discussing recently the whole concept of what you were just talking about. I'm not a Facebook person. I very rarely get on it. I do get on it occasionally. I have to almost force myself. But I use it as a way to keep in touch with family, especially when I'm out of the country. I'll just post something, every day so they know I'm okay. That's really what it comes down to. But I do post a lot on LinkedIn. Now, anytime I get a connection request, I can look at the title of the person and know if they're going to immediately shoot me I do this. Don't you want this in your business? Let's get on a call immediately. I don't know. I don't know how you do business. I don't know what your values are. Why would you think that that's a good idea, right? There is no communication between us. There is no level of trust between us. Why would I put my business in your hands?
Exactly.
I could pull somebody off the street and say, here, go be responsible for all my social media posts. What I want is that a logical thought process. I mean, I can tell you just by the title of the person if I'm going to get mashed with this cold offer. I'm like, most of them I ignore. Sometimes I just say, politely say no thanks. But that is it's an energy killer.
It is.
As soon as I see that, I'm like, another one, I don't want to say no to the connection because, they might get something out of my podcast because I post occasionally that, this week we've got a new guest talking about marketing strategies, right? And magnetism, whatever it is. They might get them useful. They might listen to this and say, ooh, my strategy wasn't great, right? So there's that. And I probably will put that on the little blurb on this one because that's a really good hint that they should listen. But something else you were talking about when you were talking about referrals, right? And how we can get stuck in a trap with people that may not be long-term clients. In the energy world, I mentor other healers as well, right? That's part of what I do. That's the whole specialization part, right?
Yes.
I help younger people with less experience. They may be older people, but younger in the business, right? But I've had to tell someone, sometimes when you get a new client who refers all their friends, and then that path seems to dry up, sometimes I think of us as like the flavor of the month, everybody, let me tell all my friends. And then the next shiny object comes up and they all move over to here. And you're like, where did everyone go? So that is a fact of life in the business, when you've got someone who really likes what you do and they tell all your friends about it, but then they find something else, and
it's like in a restaurant. Like, I've been to a great restaurant. You tell everybody in the first week or two, and then you forget about it. And
then you go to another good restaurant, and that's the one you talk about. So that is a fact of life with referrals.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's good just to take stock of, one of the things that I like to get people to do is actually just sit down and figure out, what percentage of my clients come from each of these three avenues? How many do I go out and find? Even people, in Facebook groups, search for people who are looking for someone and then pitch themselves in the comments. That is a find activity. So how many are coming from find? How many are coming from referrals? How many are you receiving? And how many are you attracting yourself? They're coming directly to you. And attracting even can be they have found you because that's them doing the effort, right? So they've found you on Google or on the internet without, it doesn't have to be a piece of marketing such as a podcast, but the more pieces that you have out there, the more ability they have to find you, I always say. So, it's interesting when you just sit down for a minute and think, well, what is my percentage? Because it just gives you that moment of clarity to be like, oh, interesting. And I've had people who come through my training sort of say, wow, I didn't realize like 90% of mine are, find, or 90% are receive referrals. And so what we want to do is be shifting that percentage into the attract zone so much more, so that you've got something that you're in control of. You've got that stability with the attract, and you've usually by then got people that you can reach out to if you're like, hey, it's kind of got a bit quiet, or it's going to be quiet next month. You can put something out because you've got people to put it out to. And the trouble is when that happens, when you're relied on referrals, or if you're doing the find, is if you're going out there to do outreach, you've just got to do more outreach. Well, how much time are you going to spend doing that? If you're already doing it all day and it's not working, or you're just going to keep on adding more and more and more time and sleep never, it's just not viable, especially if you have children, if you've got, any kind of life that you want to live. Maybe you like to exercise and do things that keep you happy as a human. It's just not a sustainable way to do it. And obviously with referrals, you could potentially reach out to your referral network and say, hey, I've got some space, but they're not in control either, unless they're talking to someone or know of someone who has that need. So that's kind of a bit of hope. I'd call that like the hoping. Oh, I hope they've got someone for me. Whereas, we really want to be having something that well, I've got a group of people here who are, the right fit. I've got an audience that is curated by me because I've attracted them in based on what I do and what I talk about. And anytime I want to grow my business or fill a gap, I can put out an offer to them and, and have some people put up their hands for it. So that's where we want to shift into, because it takes away so much of the stress and pressure, doesn't it? And like you say, the beauty about it, and you mentioned this already with people who are doing the cold outreach, the big difference, what they don't have that you do have when you're doing the attract methods, is they don't have any credibility. No authority. Like you said, you don't know them from a bar of soap. It's like somebody's turned up on your doorstep, knocked on your front door of the house and said, hey, I don't think you're doing a very good job with, the way that you've decorated your house. Let me come in and do some things. And you'd be like, well, who are you? Like some random person who's walked off the street. You have no idea who they are. They've just turned up and are telling you that they can do something for you. That was pretty offensive as well. Like the amount, I don't think people realize, just you think that you're reaching out a hand to help someone, but they have not said that they need your help. If you are making the first contact, if you're saying I can help you, that is rude on a scale of quite high proportions to that person, because you're basically telling them that you as a stranger can see that they need help, or you're so arrogant that you think that you know better than them. You know nothing about them. They have not asked you for help. They've not said that they need help. Whereas when you have an audience, you're inviting people to join your audience, with their track methods. You're putting something out there. You're inviting people. Subscribe to the podcast. Here, I've got something free for you. Would you like to join my email list? They are choosing to take that step. They're choosing to join your list. They might choose to unsubscribe. Fine, that's great, because they're probably not the right person for you. But the ones who stay on it are choosing to stay on it. So it's all their choice. And when you then make an offer or an invitation for something else, a paid offering, they will choose to take that next step to you. So it's always their choice. You're never going out to them saying, you can't do this, or you need this, or, and telling them that they're doing something wrong or that they need something. And that to me is a major difference that not many people are so present to. We might see people who are putting out, saying, oh, well, I got clients by posting in Facebook groups, or by, putting up my hand and replying to comments. Yes, but there's like that person still has to go through a process of discovering who you are and thinking, do you have the authority? Do you have the credibility? Are you the right person? Because no one is going to buy from you unless that is the box that you're ticking. And so so much easier and faster when you create this authority, you create your credibility. They come to you and they already see it and are present to it right from the beginning. And that is, we're talking about magnetism here. This is what it is behind the scenes. This is where that energetic magnetism comes from, because somebody, maybe they do get referred to you or they find you online, they will suss you out. They will check you out. They will be thinking, is this person the right fit for me? And if you're not clear on who it is that you're working for, they don't know how to tick that box that you're the right fit for them. So this is why it all comes back to that. Because if they're not seeing their boxes being ticked, then they're back to Google search. They're back to wherever they were before, floating back off into the universe. And they might have been the right fit for you. So by not getting specific, you're really doing yourself and them a disservice, because they're not able to make that next step forward with you.
So if I'm going to make an assumption, and feel free to jump in and tell me, no, you missed something. The first step that a small business owner, solopreneur, someone moving into that space should take when they're looking at how to become known is, who do they want to be known by?
Yes.
Who do they want to find them? What is their ideal client? Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a framework that I use for this, but in really simple terms, the very first step I like to call the who, the what, and then the why you. But if you just start with the who and the what, you can, basically take a big leap forward past a lot of people. Most people don't even get this far. So they tend to stay in that place where they've started a business, but they really they've created a job for themselves, like a freelancer out there, just taking on whatever works that will come their way. So if you want to move out of that place, or you want to start a business and actually be like, right, I want to really get that momentum happening right from the beginning and be attracting clients that are really good and great fit for me, then defining who and defining what. So who meaning, who is it? Who are you actually there for? Who is the best fit for you? And now I want to speak, because I know you said that, especially, might be an energy healer who you work with. You might be thinking, well, everybody has energy and most people need healing. So I can help anybody, right?
I hear that so often. So often.
But are they? Because, you might be at your family, you might have been at Thanksgiving just we're recording this just after Thanksgiving, Christmas, just think back to wherever you were last at a gathering, and there would have been people there who you would be looking at thinking, gosh, you really need some help. I can tell that you need some healing. There's all sorts of stuff going on there. And they are blind to it, right? They're not even open to hearing about that. They've got about 10 different steps that they'd have to go through to be in a place where they're even listening to you, even interested in doing it. And then they've got to take the step forward to work with you. So while they might need it, they're not your ideal customer, because when we're in business, it's about attracting in the people who already want what you offer. And that already is so important. This is a word that most people forget. Already want. They want it already. And then sell them what you've got. That's it. It is as easy as that. And so many business owners are so busy trying to convince people who need what they do, trying to convince them that they want it. But there's some people who are never going to want it, even though they need it so badly, And so we've just got to go, wow, I've got a big heart. I would love to help these people. I can see that they need it. And sometimes we've just got to go, you know what? If they're not ready, if they're not wanting it, then there's not much I can do for them. They need to have something that happens that shifts them into a place of interest or wanting. And if you're talking to people who are totally oblivious, that is, you're on the longest, hardest path to get them to turn into a client, because they've got to go through all these stages of awareness first. So the easiest one is to think, who already wants it? Who already wants it? And who has an actual, they are already thinking, I need this. I think that this is what I need to solve this problem. They're in that zone. They're aware of their problem. They're aware of probably what it is, or have a notion that they might not have ever had it done before, but they've got some awareness that there's something there, and it's not going to sound foreign to them when you say, great, well, this is how I can help you. They'll be like, sounds amazing. Let's do it. Right. So that who is important. And, when you're thinking about it, there's not just the fact that they already want it, but who's the right fit for you? And so here's something just to share with you a little bit of, one of the things I work with my client on. I love to give them the analogy of, like, imagine you own a nail salon. You do pedicures and manicures. Now, every person walking past your salon has feet. Do you want every pair of feet that is on the street right now to walk into your salon, take their shoes off and say, can you please scrub my feet and do my nails? Now, I'm sure that the man walking past with the gnarly toenails and the, cracked feet and heels, he might really, really need your services, but that's maybe not the person whose feet you want to walk into your salon. You might want the lady who looks after her feet, but actually is due for a bit of a pedicure. Think about it that way, because it's almost exactly the same in any business. There will be so many people who they might want it, they might need it, but they may not be the right fit for you because you might not vibe with them. They might not have the same, like you mentioned, values. They might not just be on that same playing field as you. And the connection is so important. When you're in a service-based business, we're not selling a product. It's not like, here's a coffee mug, this is the price, buy it, done. A service is a human-to-human connection and interaction. And even if it's business to business, you're still humans in a business. And so there has to be a really good connection there. And so think about that more deeply, and there's so many layers that we go through, that we can ask questions to uncover that. I like to think like peeling the layers off an onion. We want to peel back all those bitter layers and get to that sweet center. That is your who. And then you combine it with the what. And the reason why these two things go together is often the what also depends a bit on the who, and the who depends a bit on the what, right? So we need to be starting to define both and then pairing them up to see, is there alignment here and is this matching? Because if your who and your what have a disconnect, then there won't be a sale happening. People, it's not going to be the right fit for them. Your offering isn't going to be the right fit for the who. So we need to have a connection there happening.
When I left my 36-year career, which was in a totally different field than energy work, right? Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned earlier, I set it up with the premise that the right client would find me at the right time. I don't want to work with the client who is skeptical about energy work. That's not my mission, to educate them on how it works and why it works. Now, I have websites with scientific studies that I'm happy to forward to people. But that's not where I want to spend my time. I want to work with the person who's ready to work, who understands the value of this, and maybe they're just lost and don't know how to get their business from where it is to where they always thought it would be, but it's just not, right?
Exactly.
And so with my referrals, because I've set my intention that way, that's what I get, right? And I really enjoy working with small business owners, which is why the podcast is the combination of my previous career, all the experience from the leadership positions, and this other totally different field of energy work. But they're combined. It's a very specific group of people that are drawn to me, right? So
exactly.
But you have to know, and here's another part to this, and it's not anything you mentioned, and it may be counter, but I'm going to say it anyway. Make a decision that this is your group now. It doesn't have to be your same group in 20 years. You can change your market, or you can add a different division of your company, if you will, that focuses on a different market and has different language addressed towards different people with different offers. Chances are they're going to be very similar, but different, right? And that's sort of how my
I'm
business.
glad that you said that, because people have definitely got worried about getting stuck in a box. That's one of the challenges or the pushbacks that I get when we're like, right, let's get specific on your niche. And they're like, but I like variety and I don't want to get stuck in a box. And I'm like, okay, you're never stuck at all. The thing is, you're in control, you're in charge. If you find that, wow, what I've defined here, and then you start working with people and you think, oh, I'm not sure if I'm really in the right spot, guess what? You can shift. And it's probably not a huge shift. It's not like you've got to change everything. You might tweak it. And, I think that a business is a living thing, right? It evolves with you, just like as humans, we're all evolving. And so you will become more aware and more in tune with, well, this is more of what I want. And what was it about that I want more of? So I believe it's a continual process of refinement. We just have to start off with the defining at the beginning, like define it, then refine it as you go. And like you say, you might evolve into a slightly different direction. You might even get more specific. That sometimes happens as well. We start off with a certain definition and even get more specific. And I've had clients who kind of went, well, I can't make it down to one. They went, I'll have 3. And so that was as low as we could get them to 3 different ideal customers, 3 different sort of offerings. And they tried that for about 6 months and then decided, actually, they're just going to focus on one. Because the main thing is when you have the multiples, it's doubling or tripling however many times, you've got a totally different market, different offering. You're duplicating your workload. So can be done. And, you see big corporations, banks, obviously a huge one that does that. They've got all these different products, all these different people at different stages, but they have thousands and thousands and thousands of people working for them, hundreds of thousands. So when we're a small business, you want to be a lean business, you want to have a high profit margin, which is totally possible. It's kind of about going, you can do that, but where is the sweet spot? Where is the bit where you want to play? And maybe you want to test out a few and then choose one. It's up to you. You're the boss, right? It's just about knowing that more, less is often more in business. So more doesn't equal more profit or more clients. More sometimes equals less. And when you do less, it equals more. So it's like that counterintuitive thing. So your logical brain will always be trying to steer you onto that path of safety and thinking it's better to have fingers in more pies or, all of these different things going on. And just to now that we've had, if you're still listening, you obviously have been hearing this conversation, but now you can be present to that thought and catch it and think, well, is that actually true? It might sound logical, but anytime that's happening, that's your fear, your lizard brain sort of trying to keep you safe. And unfortunately, it's going to send you off down the hard way to getting somewhere. There is an easy way, which is just keeping it more simple. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go back to healers because that's a lot of my focus, right? Because I can mentor other healers. But when they're first starting out, especially those going through certifications, they have to work with a multitude of people. And so they get almost stuck in that idea, oh, I can help this person and that person and this person, so that's going to be my business model. Well, it can be challenging to get them to focus on one thing, just for now. Like for me, the energy work got rid of my migraines. So for a while, I focused on migraines, but I decided I didn't want to live there, right?
Yeah.
So I shifted to something else. And then I worked with animals, but I don't want to live there, So there are all these things I can do, and I still do. There's nothing that says that whatever you focus on, you have to totally get rid of. If an old client comes to you, or if a current client comes to you and says, but my dog is having problems. Can you work on my dog? Well, that's your client. Work on the dog, right? There's nothing that says you cannot help in that way. It's just that your marketing focus needs to be clear on what your goal is now. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So for me, it's working with business owners. I love that. And that's what's coming to me, right? That's what's organically coming to me and the podcasting space, right?
Yes.
That doesn't preclude you from anything that you feel led to do to help.
Yeah.
It's just,
and this is
make sure that you keep your goal in mind and that you're always moving towards your goal.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And the specificity that you get when you define it, it just helps more people who are a closer fit to that to, notice you and to choose you. But our world is not black and white. When we try to define something, there is no such thing as someone being like, yes, I am that, or no, I'm not that, unless they're at the outer peripherals, right? I like to think it's all shades of gray. So, you've mentioned there's business owners, and that's broad. There's so many different types of business owners, and there's so many layers within that, and so you can define that in, or you can define it out. There'll be people who go, well, I'm not a business owner, but I work in a business and I have that same thing that you're talking about. So there'll be people who maybe don't even identify 100% or close to with what you've defined, who will still reach out to you. And the proof of this is for many years when I began it, I very clearly said I work with women. It was all over my website, and I still had men reach out to me. It did not matter that I had that everywhere. And it wasn't that I was necessarily saying, I did work with some men and do. It's more that there's a right fit for them. And it's more that I have chosen to focus on women. So that's who I mostly attract. So to be 98% women, there's like 2% men. And that's absolutely fine. It doesn't preclude them from not contacting me. I think that that's a fear people have, like you said, of going, well, if I'm only speaking to people with migraines, then no one else will contact me. Well, that's not true. What it is helping create a bit of definition around who you are mostly wanting to attract. And at that time, you're like, well, I've just been through healing from migraines, so I know I can help you. And that's a really beautiful place to be in. But like you said, you don't have to stay there. You can evolve into new places, and you're bringing with you, you're not starting afresh, because you're bringing all of that with you. And now you've just got a different focus point of how you're using your energy work for a new audience. So that was a beautiful example of how you could evolve, whereas you're still doing the same thing. You're just doing it with different groups of people and shifting your focus.
Unfortunately, we're getting close to the end of our time.
Yes.
However, you mentioned that you have a free gift that our listeners would be interested in about keys to moving forward. Can you talk to them about that just a little bit?
Sure. So I've put together a short online training. It's available on my website. It's called 5 Keys to Clients on Tap. And I'm really talking all about going into greater detail, I guess, on what these components are that we put together that create that magnetism, so that you have clients on tap, and not just any client, but I like to help you attract the right ones in. So that training you can get on my website. You can dive into it. It's only like an hour or so long. So really great use of your time. So it's jessicaosborne.com/TMF, which stands for the magnetic factor.
Cool. Thank you so much. It has been a really interesting conversation. I want to let the listeners know, and the people who are watching the video part of this, down below, there are links with her website and how you can find her all over social media.
Yeah, fantastic.
I want to thank you again for being with me. This was such an interesting conversation.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jean. It's been a really wonderful chat, and I've enjoyed it a lot. So thank you.
Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners, or are you complete?
Wow, there have been so many. I think that it's probably just about, when you're thinking, should I do this? Shouldn't I? The world is so busy. There's so many people who are coming into the business space, who are already in it. You can feel like it's so crowded. Is there even room for me? Well, what that means is there's always room. There's so many different people who are starting businesses. There's humans. I like to think the market is almost unlimited for you. But because we have so many people, the best way to play is by having a voice. And by having a voice means, really saying, right, I am going to do this, but I am going to kind of step into my expertise and talk to something specific, because that is the way to get seen and heard and be remembered. People know who to send you. If they're going to refer someone to you, they know who to send to you and what for. So I think I really just wanted to leave you with that, is a crowded market isn't a reason not to do it. It's just a reason to be specific. And there's more and more people entering the online space all the time. It's not a bad thing. There's more than enough to go around for everybody, and will continue to be, because we've got more new businesses. We've got more people who are, becoming aware of energy and all of these things. I think it's beautiful. It's all growing. And it's just, be specific. That is the key, I think. So that's really what I wanted to leave you with today.
Cool. So on that note, we'll say goodbye for now. This is Jean Border, your host of the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey podcast, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey, where we take out your emotional baggage and heal your emotional body so you get to enjoy the success you desire and deserve. Remember to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey.